Is this angle good? Is this beautiful? I think this is beautiful. I am currently treating my life like an experiment. Every experiment has to have an outcome, whether that be favorable or not. There has to be a thesis. No, that's a paper. There has to be a hypothesis. I'm not a science person. There has to be a hypothesis made, and then there has to be a procedure, steps taken to attain that hypothesis. And then there's a conclusion. At this point in my life, the experiment title would be The Pursuit of Happiness. I'm making this up on the fly. I've been thinking about it, but not in this much of a scientific thought process. But here it is, written out. The Pursuit of Happiness, an experiment. My hypothesis is that I can make my life better and that I can be happy. And yeah, I hypothesize that I can be happy and I can make my life better. Now, the procedure, hold on, let me figure out what the steps are for an experiment. Okay, from this very simple, childish diagram, there has to be an observation. My observation of my life is that I have never been happy. I often choose misery. I am extremely traumatized, and that I am tired of feeling unfulfilled and feeling like shit. My question is, can I no longer feel like shit? My question is that, and it also is, how can I go about making my life better? It's also really sweet because there's this guy here playing with his kids, his child, and he is having like outbursts of emotions. And at a point I was like, he's being too rough with that child. But the more I'm observing him, the more I'm recognizing that he is just overly protective. And it's beautiful to see because it's like he rough around the edges, he got these long ass locks, he got tattoo on his face. But he's breaking stereotypes while also being stereotypical. I love that. Back to my experiment. The Pursuit of Happiness, an experiment. Observation, I'm miserable, feel like shit, don't want to feel that way, no longer want to be depressed ever again in my life. The question is it possible for me to obtain happiness? My hypothesis, which is the next part of the scientific method, is that I can attain happiness. I can make my life better. I don't have to live a life of misery. The experiment is me. I had to look at another diagram. I'm not a YouTuber. Test the prediction. How I plan to go about this, because I like to break things down into steps. I plan to break this experiment up into mind, body, and spirit. Within mind, I would like to include mental health, career, because I do feel like career kind of correlates with this for me, and relationships. I don't know if that's necessarily in the right place. Give me some liberty to potentially move that to spirit. Spirit for me is spirituality. So my connection with source, nature, maybe love. Yeah, I think I'm gonna X out love from mind and put it in spirit. And body, which I think of all of these I have down pat the most. Working out, and I want to get back into yoga and meditation. And I also want to pour into my beauty a little bit more because I feel bad about having a desire to be attractive. So that is going to be broken up into style and also playing around with makeup because I don't wear makeup and I would like to start to explore that a little bit more. And hair. I think this is a pretty solid experiment. So that's the first part of the experiment. Now, I also want to do weekly check-ins, and this is going to serve as my pre-check-in. At the moment, I feel hopeful that I can change things around. I feel hopeful that I can finally explore happiness. But if I'm honest, I'm kind of in this rough patch because I've recently discovered that I struggle with relationships, and I think a lot of the issue is me. I've typically blamed a lot of things on exes, but I think from a place of accountability, I'm officially ready to say that I might be the problem as much as that stings. And even if the people that I date have problematic ways, I'm seeing a trend that I am constantly attracting folks that got issues, which tells me that I got issues. Recently, I reached out to an ex, wanting to reconnect as friends because I miss him. And not even per se romantically, because I struggle with romance. I have never really been in love. My first love, who passed away, I do think I loved him, but we were so young, so I don't know how I can wrap my head around that being romantic per se. But this ex that I, reached out to, I think he's genuinely a decent person, and I think of all of my exes, he was the best. And a few months ago, no, it's probably it's been over a year, I did this series called Fuck My 20s. And I talked about every year of my 20s, and he was a big part of my 20s. And I spoke about that relationship, and some of the comments were like, well, why did you all ever break up? And I think it was because we're inherently not compatible. But at the same time, at this point in life, if we never had been in a relationship before, and if I just met him now, not even just met him, we went to high school with each other. If I had if we were reintroduced into each other's lives at this point, I think that we could have worked really well. But that could never be the case now. Let me stop speaking in absolutes. It's not the case now because it's not. Shit went down, can't take it back. But at the base of it, we never ended badly. It wasn't a whole blow up. So recently I discovered I want more friends, and I decided to reach out to him. And I kind of felt hurt by the way the dynamic was going at first, but we ended in a really sweet and amicable way. But it resulted in him saying we can't be friends. And I'm really proud of him for saying that. And I'm also really proud for me really saying it. And it'd be too much to explain, too personal for me to get into that more. But I've been thinking about that a lot, and kind of thinking about my contribution to that relationship, both good and bad. And I heard in one of the many things that I listened to, probably a psychologist talking to another psychologist, about whenever you think that someone else is the problem and you think something is, their fault, assign percentages to whose fault is what. So I reflect on that relationship, and I think about the demise and what is the percentage of my fault and what is the percentage of his fault. And I think typically whenever I first break up with a person, it's easy to just put everything on them. Even though I typically don't do that, because I'm very self-reflective to the point of self-destructive, which is the reason why I typically get out of relationships, because I'm I am a problem. Let me eradicate the problem, which is myself in the situation, but I digress. Reflecting on that relationship, I would say that I was probably 50% of the problem. And I think in some areas I might have been closer to 60 or 70, and I think, vice versa. And I think that it's kind of hard for me to wrap my mind around in that relationship, even in comparison to different platonic relationships, because that's pretty even, which really solidifies that the relationship was bad timing. But I trust source and I trust the universe. I trust the timing of my own life. So I accept the fact that the timing was perfect and the relationship was perfect. And what I learned, and I'm sure what he learned from it, was perfect. And not everyone's meant to be in your life forever. And you got to be okay with that. And I let it go and I release it along with every other thing and every other person in my life. I hope I've been in focus. Am I in focus? I am in focus. I release him and I release everything in my life that is no longer serving for me, and I release everything in my life that I no longer serve. And I think I'm starting to accept the fact that I gotta get shit moving if I want to get better. Because I've never known happiness, I've never known peace, and a lot of it is because I keep my own self in a mental jail. And I'm ready, free the guys. I'm the guys, free me. I don't want to be here anymore. Not life. Lord, I do want to be here. I want to be here. I want to be on earth. But I don't want to be incarcerated. I want to be free. And I have to take accountability and recognize the fact that I'm the only person that can free me. So, hence the pursuit of happiness and experiment. Give me grace to change that because that's probably copywritten. My pursuit of happiness and experiment. Y'all, I know that I'm not the only one who struggles with happiness. I know I'm not the only one who struggles with love, and I'm looking forward to exploring this series more and putting something out there that I think is really important for all of us at this moment. Because we don't have anything else but ourselves. And like in 100% ourselves. I take my own body everywhere I go. And the only thing I can fully control is me. And I'm ready to fully control what I can control. So I'm going to write. I'm going to write. I don't know what to say. Ugh, am I going to keep this in there? I feel so awkward. You know, it's funny. I create content, but this is strange. And I think it's because I do typically have like a decent amount to say if I have something to say, or if I don't feel awkward, or if I feel like I know a lot about whatever it is I'm talking about. But happiness, my own self, who I am, I don't really know. So it's like it's icky, it's cringy for me to talk about this. But that's okay. I'm trying to live in my purpose, and I think my purpose is to actually be vulnerable and to help folks. So I got to be okay with not knowing every damn thing, not being perfect, acknowledging the fact that I'm not perfect, and doing the work and helping other people do the work. All right. Let me start to write out my experiment so I can come to this space a little bit more organized next time and change my motherfucking life. You better change your life too, if you need it. If you Gucci, don't listen to me. I'll see you all soon. Mwah.